Young adult. Pesticides and cough as a young adult. The first house I ever owned myself was in Morgan Hill, California. It was a small corner house in a suburban cul-de-sac nestled just north of a farm area and ranch country called San Martin. You certainly heard a lot about that by now. There were holdout farms and ranches still in Morgan Hill, though it was being built up. But they were rapidly, like I say, being replaced with single-family tract housing developments, even little mini-malls. It was a nice place to buy a house. Low population, new shopping centers, even new service centers. It was near high-tech, well-paying jobs in San Jose and its surrounding areas. But it was still far enough away to feel safe and private. Morgan Hill was a nice place to live while working at Atari Games in Milpitas, California. There were pests, like any house has. Because Morgan Hill previously was a heavy farm and ranch-laden area, there were many farm animals and the like still. And although they became fewer and fewer over the years, with them were environmental things. My house was no exception. There were spiders and beetles and all sorts of creepy crawly things. I decided to take matters into my own hands and went to the local Orchard Supply hardware store. The local do-it-yourselfer shop. They recommended the strongest pesticides, of course. Something that contained dioxin or a drug called diazonin. The chemicals were high-power pesticides. The idea was you mixed them in real time with a feeder that you attached to your garden hose. It was easy to dial up or dial down the concentration mix. I figured it made sense to crank the mixer up a lot, maybe to max, because we had such an infestation of problem everywhere. And then I thought, I might not have to do multiple passes if I do a very strong first pass. Did I read the instructions? Well, yes, I did read the instructions. Did they indicate the appropriate amount of pesticide to use? I would say, yes, it did. Well, did I follow the instructions and use only the amount specified? I must confess, no, I did not. I cranked the mixer dial to 11, as they say. In other words, I maxed it out. Happily, I walked about the backyard, the side of the house, and the front yard with my maxed out sprayer, spritz and spray and blast. All good times. I coated the rose bushes, lawn edges, flower beds, and even the vents that went under the house crawl space. I did not wear any eye, nose, or mouth coverings. I did not wear gloves. In hindsight, I did not use any protection at all while using highly toxic chemicals. I was not very bright in that moment. I was stupid. The next morning, I came out to see the results of my spraying work and decide if I needed to do another pass. I did not need to do another pass. Overnight, the roses turned brown and died. The grass edging turned brown and died. Any foliage near where I sprayed was brown, dry, and dead. There was an eerie wreath of dead spiders all around the underhouse vent screening, as if the spiders desperately were trying to crawl towards fresh air but died before they could escape their doom. A large blue jay bird lay dead at the base of a rose bush as well. I wondered if it died coincidentally right then where I sprayed, or if it had died eating a poison bug, or if it had died eating the poison directly. No matter the reason, it was utterly dismaying how powerful the pesticide was. The pesticide leveled everything with so much carnage, all overnight. A few months later, I began developing a mysterious cough. It was so severe that I would cough upwards of 5 to 10 times a minute. That is like a non-stop train of clearing your throat and coughing. In my early 20s, doctors suggested that my cough may be the result of the exposure to pesticides. Or maybe it was something else. It did not matter, though, what the cause was ultimately. They could offer no cure. There was no cure. My now ex-wife would tell me that If I was diagnosed terminally ill, maybe she could tolerate my cough until the day I died. But there was no way that she would live a life listening to me like that forevermore. Yeah, wow. If I was destined to die, it was worth staying with me. Otherwise, I was to just go and die by myself. I did not feel very much support there. Later, I would observe that my ex-wife had a lot of long lunches with her boss from work. We would eventually divorce, and she would marry that very boss. That is another tale. Much later in life, doctors would surmise that the pesticides may well have stored themselves in my fat tissue, which later would release themselves in my mid-40s when I lost a lot of weight. Those pesticides were hypothesized to perhaps caused nerve and brain damage later in my life, that maybe I had been spared when I was first exposed to it. Of course, I could have just had random fated brain damage. That's right. I do have some kind of brain degeneration. No one knows what it is or what caused it. I struggle to work. Anyway, you know that story by now.